I think we can create the life we want through manifestation. That's visualization, right? The Bible also says without a vision, the people perish.
Meet Sallieu Sesay, a dynamic Sierra Leonean American actor, captivating audiences on CBS's Seal Team, HBO's Barry, and Tyler Perry's All the Queen's Men. WeAudition met Sallieu at the Berlinale Film Festival, where he delivered a mesmerising performance as Amit in the thriller Manodrome, alongside Jesse Eisenberg, earning high praise for being both sweet and terrifying on screen. Described as the perfect fit by producers from Just His self-tape, Sallieu's acting journey is as compelling as his roles. Originally from Sierra Leone, he moved to the US at age 3 and pursued a bachelor's degree in nursing before the stage called his name.
Make strong choices, make bold choices. And if it's the wrong choice, it's okay. But at least you made a strong, distinct choice. Move with grace. I think move with discernment. Trust your intuition. Maybe, and not in everyone's case, but that might not be the right agent or manager for you. You know? I mean, your tribe is always going to find you.
All right, guys, it's the WeAudition podcast, and I have here Sallieu Sesay. How you doing?
Doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank
It's
you
really
for
nice to
coming
be
in.
here.
Sallieu, thanks for being on. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
You're an actor. You've been in a lot of big stuff. I had a really burning question. I wanted to ask about investing in yourself, because I feel like you're someone that really knows how to and really invests in himself. How do you do that?
Oh, that's nice of you to say, Richard. Well, I think it starts with books. I think it starts with research. I think it starts with, I'm big on, Darren mentioned documentaries. I also really like autobiographies. So people that have come before me, I study their books. For example, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I read his book in 2020 and I really liked his book. You know, kind of really taught me about meditation. And then earlier, just before we jumped on, we were talking about things like adaptogens, you know, things that help reduce cortisol levels, you know, ashwagandha, 5-HTP, things like that. Exercise. I buy alkaline water, you know what I mean? And I've been drinking alkaline water for years. So I think it's just these things that are just compounding over time. I don't eat meat, rarely, you know, if I do, I don't eat chicken. Fish is my main source of protein, and, you know, beans and brown rice, complex carbs. So yeah, I do invest in myself quite a bit in the sense of nutrition, in the sense of, you know, listening to audiobooks, reading books, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So you like to take, as I've seen from your social media, you like to take clues from people that have succeeded, because if we look at someone that's where we want to be, they've left a trail, haven't they?
Absolutely. I would say success leaves clues. Absolutely.
What's one of the clues that you first saw that you thought, I need to put that in my life?
Well, I would say probably just before I went to college, or even during college, I just gifted these 2 books to my kids, actually. He Can Who Thinks He Can by Orson Swett Marden. That was one of the first, I would say, self-help positive books I ever read. And I was in college. I read this book and I would read it over and over. And I just started just kind of adapting some of these principles into my life. And I just saw things coming to fruition, you know, getting my degree, you know, getting my bachelor's degree in nursing, and realizing the importance of self-care and fitness, as, you know, you mentioned, Richard, a moment ago. Yeah. So I think that's really where it began for me. Yeah.
How do you think self-help translates into acting? Is it useful for actors to do that?
I think so. Because, you know, you need a level of confidence to be an actor, right? I mean, It can be daunting to think that, for example, you're going to move to LA, you know, from those books I learned, like, when you write stuff down, you can make it happen. You can create it, because, you know, when things are written down, especially over and over, and when they're recited, sort of like an affirmation, it's like GPS, you know, if I'm headed over here to Marina Del Rey and I make a wrong turn, then I know where I'm headed to eventually, and I'll get rerouted. So, yeah.
So having a plan, having a goal. And I think, you know, the personal development work that can be done is good for the resilience that an actor needs as well.
Darren,
because times can be tough or they can be amazing, right?
Yes. And it waxes and wanes, especially in the beginning, in the first few years, you know, when you're starting out, when your name isn't really known and you haven't worked with a lot of big names, and, Maybe you're still working to get reps, still working to get agents, managers, publicists. I mean, when we were at Con this past year, you put me in touch with Olivia Shuang, shout out to her. And that's one person who's, an intricate part of my team. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let's talk about that. Because a lot of actors will struggle to know when to build a team and which elements they need at what point. I often hear from people that say they want a manager when they've got nothing to manage, or they want a publicist when they have nothing to publicize. At what point, as someone that's had all these elements of team and you've had films in big festivals like Berlin, when do you bring on team members and how do you know who to hire?
That's a very good question. I tend to really vet people. I always tell my team, everybody I work with, whether it's real estate, whether it's my publicists, my agents, my managers, I never wanted to just be transactional, where it's just, I'm just another name, another number. It's just, I usually will have dinner with my agents and managers. When I was in London last month, I had dinner with Olivia, for example. My manager here, we've gone out to dinner multiple times. We've watched theater together. Because when your team knows you at your core and knows your essence, they'll know what you'll be good for. My team just pitched me for a project actually that I'm going in for. I'm going into Paramount tomorrow for, because they know me. They watch my story. They know I'm a dad. They know how much fatherhood means to me. That's me at my core,
Now, there might be some actors out there though that say, well, I try and get my manager or my agent to put something on the calendar and it just falls on deaf ears. Have you ever had that where you reach out and you don't have that relationship and you're trying to make it happen? What would be your advice to them? Because we all know that if we're at a certain point in our career, that phone will always be picked up. And if we're not at that point in our career, we're lucky to get a call back.
That's a good point. I think, we just have to feel things out and obviously give people grace because people in LA are very busy. Everybody's working extremely hard to get to that next level. So I think move with grace. I think move with discernment. Trust your intuition, maybe, and not in everyone's case, but that might not be the right agent or manager for you. I mean, your tribe is always going to find you.
Yeah.
People who believe
Have
in
you had a lot of agents and managers over the years? Have you stuck with the same people?
That's a great question, Richard. I've stayed with some for longer than I should have. That's for sure, because I had this sense of loyalty. I've left some that maybe I wish I hadn't so soon. But I think the important thing is that I've always kept a level of professionalism, and a level of, I would say, kindness is currency. So I have managers who I might have left that might have even been upset with me that I left them. But now we're on really good terms. They celebrate my wins. They celebrate my successes,
Well, I think from knowing you the short while that we have, you are somebody that maintains great relationships with people. And it's hard to have any ill feeling towards you and your work because of the way you conduct yourself. And something that we very much foster within the WeAudition community is an idea of creating good relationships in the industry. How do you do that? How do you think relationships matter to your career and how do you foster them?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a really good question. I think checking in with people. I think trying to be present when people have events or functions, trying to attend. It's not always easy, as you know. I mean, I work a lot. It's not always easy, but it's important. I just had a viewing party for my film Manodrome, and I had a beautiful turnout. I mean, literally in my home, my 3-bedroom home here in LA, it was standing room only. There were people literally in the kitchen, in the staircase, upstairs on the balcony looking over, people outside on the patio watching in. And I guess it's a testament to how I try to, I guess, sow into people, and give back as much as possible, whether it's watching someone self-tape, whether it's, referring someone to an agent or a manager, just trying to really, sow into people because what you put out, you get. So I try as best as possible to put out really good energy, I would say. Yeah.
And you remember who brings that back to you as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it won't always be reciprocated, but when you meet someone who has the same vibration as you, like you and I, Darren, when we met, I mean, it was serendipitous. It was amazing. I signed up for WeAudition, and I think months later, you and I met. We met in a cab, actually. We were headed to the same function, and we were just talking shop. You know when you meet your people, when you meet your tribe, and we're just talking about this and that casting director and this movie and plays, and I thought, oh, this is my guy. And then we hit it off ever since. You know what I mean? You'll know when you found, your people.
Well, that's a great.
Darren said to me, actually, when you first met, Darren said to me, I've met this great guy, because we were looking for the ones to watch, and we were doing that program, and we had an idea about what we were going to do with these magical people, but we didn't know who those people were. And Darren said to me, I think it was the day you met or the day after, he's like, I've met one. It's Sallieu, you've got to meet him when you come to LA next. He'll come to an event. And we just had a list of people. And It was really early on, wasn't it?
Well, and it's the, I know we're not casting directors, but when we were looking at that program, we felt empathy with what a cast director says, because sometimes there is an X factor. But I'll go further into the equation, because it was a combination of the X factor, the circumstance, the way someone shows up, and the validation and credibility that you bring to that. And we met in Berlin Film Festival, actually. And I remember someone that we respected sent you along to our party. And then we got to know each other in a cab to the next event. And Sallieu was in Berlin promoting his film Manodrome. You had this incredible, humble energy about you, at the same time, so professional and excited for what was about to happen. Your film did really great in Berlin, but you had a giving energy from the start, just in the way you conducted yourself. Because I was watching you that night, the way you conducted yourself in a room with other people, from everyone to the person on the door, to the bartender, to a friend that was just introduced, to a random stranger. And I see that as part of the success of acting, right? Because you have to be a good actor, but the whole roundedness of a person, I always say this to people when they're coming up, is good acting is part of the equation.
Yes, agreed.
But that's when people think that good acting is all it takes.
No.
They're not acting very regularly, because at the end of the day, a good actor is working regularly, and to work regularly, people have to enjoy their work. They have to be working with people they respect and like and trust.
Exactly.
And so that makes up the rest of it. But a lot of people, because they're only doing one day here and there on a set, they're not thinking about the wholesome of the person.
Yes, the whole holistic approach to it. You're absolutely right. I mean, I've gotten things just from word of mouth. I did a show in Atlanta. And it was a direct offer. I was in Sierra Leone, West Africa at the time, visiting my dad. It was maybe 2 years ago. And the producers just hit me up and said, hey, look, you have a degree in nursing. You're a father. We see that you train, you box. We see you at the gym. This role is perfect. Would you consider? I said, yeah. I mean, come on. It's your first direct offer. I said, absolutely. So they sent me the script. I read it through. Now my reps, though, I just finished Manodrome, and they said, no, the pay on this is really small. And that's the thing. You can't always do things for money, because this is that role has been one of my most memorable roles. Right. Because I got to play a father. It was in such alignment with me. And this character ends up getting Lou Gehrig's disease. So there's a whole arc physiologically, right? I'm healthy, I'm strong, and then I'm gone. They put me in oversized clothes. I actually lost 15 pounds for the role. Yes. And the makeup, the way they did everything, and I was sick and defecating on myself, urinating on myself. And then my wife begins to step out on me. I don't want to give too much of the story away, but I tell you, when I finished with that role, Darren, I was in my home in Atlanta, and it took me some time to kind of unplug. I went through a little bit of a depression, because it's not to give the story away, but there's a homicide in there. There's a suicide in there. There's a lot, there's
you took it on.
I went deep in that role. I mean, with the weight loss and everything. And it does something to you when you lose a lot of weight. It does something. It kind of reminds me of Adrian Brody in The Pianist, the role he won an Oscar for. It just, that was just, but then again, had I not wanted to do the role, or had I not gotten this direct offer, had I not worked with the people on a short film trade, I worked with the executive producers on this film, they would have never thought of me.
So that's how, because my next question was going to be,
Yeah.
how did the direct offer come about? It's from a relationship you built before.
Exactly from a relationship, and just maintaining it, periodically sending a message, hey, just checking in, hope you're doing well.
Right.
And not wanting anything, because I think that's the mistake a lot of people make. Reach out to people, hey, how you doing? Hey, I'd like to, and it's like, whoa, people can feel that energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes just check in on people.
Do you think you did something different to that role because it was a direct offer? Do you think you would have done that same thing for a tape? Or do you think because it was a direct offer, you put something different and you worked that character? Because I've had one direct offer and I put, I think, a different energy into that role. And I'm very proud of that job because I made some very good choices, which I wouldn't have done in a self-tape because it wouldn't be commercial enough, or I wouldn't have the guts to do it.
Yes.
Do you feel it's different?
It gave you some more confidence, you're saying, in yourself.
Definitely. That was for me. But for Sallieu, that direct offer, would you have done the same thing in a self-tape? Would you have done the same character, the same presentation of that role? Or did it come about organically in a different way?
That's a great question, Richard. And I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, though, to be completely honest with you. I feel like because it was a direct offer, the pressure was definitely much higher. The pressure, because, they didn't get to see what they saw what I did in a previous circumstance, but this is different. The role I played in that was just different. So in this, I really dug deep. I really worked with my coach, Ivana Chubbuck. I really just went over the material. I just remember being at my house here in LA. I had flown back from Sierra Leone and I was in my LA home, and I just remember being on my back patio. I just remember always going over the material daily, going over the material and making choices and making sure that I was moved emotionally. And when I got to set, it's some of my best work. So the pressure was definitely on, but sometimes some people work well under pressure. It's like as actors, we're almost always under pressure, right, Darren? It's like
some
Richard,
pressure,
we get, so, some jobs, if you get this audition, you have a turnaround within 72 hours, sometimes 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours, but you got to get this tape out. You got to make good decisions, good choices. And then you go for the callback, and there's pressure. There's pressure to deliver. And
do you think you felt more responsibility to deliver something that was good because it was a direct offer?
I think so. I absolutely believe so.
So that maybe helped them by direct offering. It maybe helped them for a better performance and commitment from you. Maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this movie out yet?
Which one?
The one that you talking
The TV
about?
show? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The TV show is out. It's Broken Seeds. I thought you were mentioning the one I just shot in London.
Oh, no.
That one's not out yet. But the TV show itself, yes, it's called Broken Seeds. That one's out. That one can be seen. And again, just some of my proudest moments in work, next to Manodrome, of course, because in Manodrome we're working with Adrian Brody and Jesse Eisenberg and John Trengove and Odessa Young, and Riley Keough was an executive producer on that. Shout out to her, and just a beautiful cast and crew.
So I want to.
Did you do a self-tape for Manodrome?
Yeah, I want to dive into the self-tape because Sallieu, you told me one time that this is a really interesting thing we're going to bring out here, because you told me that that audition, you did something different in it.
Yeah.
Tell me what was different.
I feel like I just really broke all the rules. I feel like, I didn't break the rules just to say I'm a rebel and I broke the rules. It wasn't that sort of thing. It was more so, I think I know who this character is.
So how did
people I went to high school with,
tape?
and so that tape was done in a fashion where it was okay. So for example, I try to create the whole setting. So it's shot in a gym. What do guys do in a gym? They're either got cutoffs on or they're flexing, shirts off. And I enter the gym with my crew, and we don't like the music. So I changed the music. I got her to change the music, and I put the sexy on, I was dancing, I had the swag on, and I was just having a good time. I just remember telling myself, and even now I say this, if I'm not having fun, or if I can't watch the tape back, shout out to one of my acting teachers, Franz Turner. He said, Sallieu, man, when you can impress yourself, you'll be onto something. When you can impress yourself.
Right.
Because sometimes we want to please the casting. We want to pay, as Ivana says, paper please. I said, I'm not doing that. So I played music that I enjoy. I was dancing. I had my shirt off.
Was this in a self-tape background
This was
at home?
a self-tape at home.
So you just had a blank wall?
No, I have a backdrop,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
had,
right.
you know, my setup is very extensive. So I had the back lights, the front lights, my backdrop, C-stand, NTG3 Rode mic, XLR, the same H6 handy recorder you got right here, brother. I got that same thing in my house. You know what I mean? So like,
so you invest in the equipment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Quality was there. The acting was there. Great choices. And then I just took risks. I danced. Even Jesse Eisenberg, when he saw that, he said, look, full disclosure, John showed me the tape. He goes, it was scary. It was sexy. It was dangerous. It was so layered. And they knew. And even Gina Gamel, shout out to her as well. She's one of the executive producers on there. And she was like, look, I was at the airport when I saw your tape. I screamed. She said she sent it directly to the director. They know. When they watch your tape, they know. They watch your tape, man, and they're like, that's our guy.
So how much of that tape, because you just explained a bunch of production stuff, and then you explained a bunch about the role. How much of that tape do you think was about you as an actor? And how much do you think was about the production value you put into the tape? Or is it a combination
That's
of both?
a good question. I feel like it's a culmination of both. It's like if you're cooking a stew, the more ingredients you have that are good ingredients that people want to taste and eat, the better. You know, the more stuff you put in, if you put out a good tape, you know, you have to at least be seen and heard. Yeah. You know, and
that's the common thing. People say that, but we're talking about an elevation on that. You're just mentioning equipment that is not standard equipment. It's like, talk me through that. How do you set your equipment up? What type of things do you have?
I just told myself, look, this is an investment, you know, and I always tell people, if you're going to be using something on a regular basis, my stationary bike, my MacBook Pro, my camera, my sound equipment, put money into it.
You record on a good camera?
Absolutely.
What type of camera?
Absolutely. Well, I just switched over to actually my iPhone. Right. I just switched to my iPhone 14 Max Pro. But before that, I was using a Blackmagic Cinema Pro. And I was lugging it around. Okay. And I still have it. And I think I actually did shoot the audition on my Blackmagic Cinema Pro 6K. And then I edit everything. I sync everything. I use either Adobe Premiere or Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve. And I edit everything together, the sound and the video. Yeah. So I'm putting out good quality tape, but I make sure that my acting is really good. I just booked something that I'm going to London next month to shoot a TV show. And I just got off a Zoom today with the director. He just wanted to meet and greet. And he said, as soon as I saw your tape, I knew. You know, and I would say to actors coming up, make strong choices, make bold choices. Ivana Chubiko says, balls to the wall, balls to the wall. Make a strong choice. And if it's the wrong choice, it's okay. But at least you made a strong, distinct choice. And they're going to be like, that guy's got guts. That guy's brave. I'm going in tomorrow to Paramount. Same thing. You know, when I did Barry on HBO, same thing. He's Bill Hader's first choice. You know, if you make just make a bold, you got nothing to lose, you know. Make a bold choice and just go for it.
We hear that a lot, bold choice, right? But explain what a bold choice might be with some examples, because I think sometimes an actor looks at that and says, well, a bold choice, does that mean being loud or does that mean being boisterous? Or what is a bold choice in your opinion?
Well, I think we have to honor the text because text is Bible, you know. Larry Moss talks about it in The Intent to Live. You got to honor the text, right? That's the foundation. But within the text, making sure that it's a marriage, I believe, also between yourself and the character. So bring yourself to it, because there's some things that are just distinctly me. I love to dance, man. Right. I love music. Like I grew up on that. You know what I mean? So if I get a chance to dance in an audition or sing, like the film I just shot last month in London, the feature, I was singing an 80s rock song. I was singing something like Michael Bolton said, I loved you, but I lied. This is more than love I feel inside. I'm doing that.
In the audition?
In my audition, prior to even like starting the scene. And then I put the volume down. I put the volume down and I see this woman and I'm like, oh, hey. Then I start talking to her.
You layered that in. That wasn't in the script.
It was not in the script, but I layered that in because it grounded me as a person, as an actor. I love 80s music.
But it fit the scene, right?
It fit the scene because of the context of where I was in the environment.
So this is really interesting because a lot of times I think the actors start their self-tape on the first line. when they're not creating the world around.
That moment before actors is huge. I always drop in. Everybody who I tape with knows I have to come from someplace. I always drop in. I don't just start a scene. I drop in, and what it does is it does something to my soul, and it just comes out of my eyes. So already like I'm somewhere.
And then do you cut that in? So you're in the character and you film a lot more, but then do you cut some of that off when you send the self-tape in?
I do.
Send that bit?
So my drop in, Richard, is just it depending on the context of the script. My drop in is usually something that grounds me in reality, if that makes sense. So a lot of times, like for example, I had a really heavy scene. For this thing I'm going in tomorrow, there's 3 scenes. The 3rd scene is really heavy. So then I just emotionally, I drop in. I just think about what it is I need to think about that's going to put me there. And then I drop in. And then I begin the scene. It's different.
And is that for you, or do you cut that off? And then, so it's just for your moment to get, or do you show that on the camera? Do you start?
I wouldn't necessarily show it. I would drop in. So I roll sound, roll video, take a minute. I drop in. Then I begin the scene. So the drop in portion, I wouldn't necessarily have to send in with myself.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
What's your process when an audition drops into your inbox? So I guess your agent sends you an audition, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing you do? Walk me through step by step what you do when you get that.
Well, if I don't self-sabotage and go, let me make a smoothie here. Because sometimes we have that, right? It's weird. But my first thing is to just read it. I print it. I read it. I read everything. I read the breakdown. I look at the executive producers. I look at the director. I look at who's attached. I go to IMDb. I look at every little minutia, every little detail. And then I start just breaking down the script. I read all the stage directions. I start crossing off where it says, Adam does such and such. I cross off. I go, I do such and such. I personalize everything.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then I have this technique of using orange and green, where green is an action thing that I'm doing and orange is something else. Then I highlight in yellow. Then I have red. I really mark my page up. And then when I go to tape, it's like a dance, It helps with also memorization, because some of these things are really long that we get, and they say you don't have to be off book, but it helps to be off book. Because imagine if I'm talking with you now, Darren, and I have to look down and figure out what I'm going to say, and then I look back up at you. There's the connection, there's a disconnect. So it's best to be off book as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly think, as much as they say you don't have to be, that's the job. At the end of the day, the job is to be off book. So why not be good at your job? And
yes,
I know some people, will say it's hard to be off book. And I'm like, that's the job.
It's hard when it's 24 hours and it's 22 pages.
But that's also
when you get a whole roll, like 20 pages, it's difficult.
But that's also the job in a way, and you have to flex that muscle. And that's why I think cold reading, as much as possible, flexes that muscle.
If you'd like to join the WeAudition community, go to weaudition.com/show to get 25% off. Now back to the show.
If I'm a chef, it's hard to bake a souffle. It's hard to bake a cake, right?
Right.
But that's the job of a chef.
If you're a chef, you're actually a chef, sir. Listen, I had Thanksgiving. We had a Friendsgiving at this man's house. And let me tell you, this guy in the kitchen, he's dangerous, okay? If you eat his food, you see his spread, the way Darren, yeah.
That's actually quite meditative for me. And it's interesting you say that, talking about food and acting, is that I do that for multiple reasons. Right. That's some downtime for me, right? That's artwork, it's meditation.
Yes.
And also it's a way of bringing community together. And that's actually taps back into how to build relationships. I always say, like, we actually run a lot of events with WeAudition to bring community together. Yes. And one of the sort of tenets of that is, if you want to be part of something, you have to also input to that. So most actors want to be invited to a premiere. They want to be invited to a party or a festival. So at some point, you've got to host that so that you're part of that ecosystem, because things don't exist on their own.
Yep.
You have to put in to get back out. So that segue into food. And of course, then the irony is I played a chef on a film, and they didn't even know that I could cook. So I didn't even cook on the screen. Yeah.
You're always quite big on the events of getting the food in, aren't you? Because I'm always like, oh, what's the budget for this? How are we looking at that? And Darren's always like, yeah, well, we need this much budget for food because it's really nice to have.
I think food is important. It brings people together.
Important.
Right.
It's very,
He's
you
right.
know, being Sierra Leonean, growing up West African here in the States, my parents kept the custom. There's never been a time that an uncle, an aunt, family friend has come to our home and not been fed. And I've kept that same custom. So anytime anyone, an actor from acting class, somebody comes over to help, I want to help them with a self-tape. They come help me with a self-tape. I feed everyone. Whether it's a smoothie, whether it's like a turmeric drink that I make, a blended drink, or a salad, salmon, whatever, everyone's getting fed. It's just customary, you know, and it's a beautiful thing.
There you go. You got to go to Sallieu's house to get fed healthy. That's I just heard those ingredients and I was like, yeah, it's part of the process.
That's right.
Yeah. What's a role that you haven't played that you would love to play?
I'd love to play someone who is living, you know,
like a real person.
Like a real person. I think my dream role would be to play, and this is out there, to play like Biggie Smalls.
Oh, yeah. Now, there's been a couple of movies made about him. So what would the angle be that you want to show?
It would be kind of, you know, his rise. I think when I wrote this down in my planner, it's some of the same producers that produced Ray. It would be that. It would be from, I would say, like maybe adolescence through his rise and then through his demise, you know. The struggles with his wife, the struggles with Tupac. I think it'd be a phenomenal role, you know, with I love transformational things, you know, with the weight gain, with the prosthetics. Yeah, that would be a role I would love to play. Yeah. Well,
hopefully someone out there's listening that can make that happen, right? You get another direct offer in the inbox.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No worries.
I'll run that line again. Hopefully that someone out there watching will give you that role in your inbox.
Hopefully.
You seem to be, you love the manifestation and the sort of those affirmation things. Is that a big part of your life? Is that something that you've
I think
learned?
So. I was just talking to an actress a moment ago about this. You know, I grew up Christian. You know, I grew up in a faith-filled home. So, you know, my mother would always say in my language, "Nafo, just pray and left all tina godian." So as a translation, it's pray and leave everything in God's hands. Pray and leave everything in God's hands. It's very sweet. It's very nice, but I do believe the Bible says that we're made in God's image. And so if we're made in God's image, we're then creators. So I think we can create the life we want, right? Through manifestation. And what is that? That's visualization, right? The Bible also says without a vision, the people perish. So that's actually seeing it. And that's what I got from Dr. Joe Dispenza's book. Because I used to think meditation was very hokey. Like, what is that? Meditation, that's weird. Sit there and hum. No. You're actually seeing what it is you want, and then you're emotionalizing it, and you're sending that stuff into the quantum field. You can call it a prayer. You can call it psycho-cybernetics. You can call it quantum physics. All of these things are in alignment with faith and believing in what it is that you want and working towards that. So that's where I'm at, you know, and it's worked for me. I have a little meditation closet that I have my blankets in, my candles. I go in there, I listen to, you know, an audio, and I visualize. And it can be very emotional. It doesn't have to be me crying all the time, which most cases for me, that's what it is. They're tears of joy. I'm at the Oscars. I see my kids in the front row. I see my mom in the front row. I'm saying thank you to them, especially my kids, for allowing me to be able to do this, because they don't get to see their dad every day. You know, they don't get to get put to bed and books read to them. So they've made the ultimate sacrifice. And also, my mother's a cutie. She's very pretty and she knows it. She's like, "Your mom, so you look at me." And she sends pictures. And I see her on the red carpet. You know, I see visions of that, us climbing out of the limo and her just kind of the excitement, you know. And you see those things and it gives you a belief. It gives you that persistence. It gives you that faith. So I believe that's what manifestation does for me. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of that stuff.
What is it that's important to you about that image of getting out of the limo, going on stage, seeing yourself at the what would that achieve for you? Is it the trophy? Is it the validation?
It's probably, I had an acting teacher ask me once, France Turner, he said, Sallieu, why do you think it is you act? And I said, well, when I was 15, my dad moved back to Sierra Leone, West Africa. And for me, it's that little boy that wants to be seen by his dad. I think that's why I do it more than anything. You know, it's like, yeah, dad, you left and you're not here. We have a great relationship, by the way, full disclosure. Now we're good. But at the time, it's like every little boy needs his dad, and he left. And, one of the things that he did see me do before he left for a few years and then came back, left when I was 15, came back when I was 18 and kind of dropped me off at college. And I told my parents, both of them, I want to do theater. My mother was really against it because she wanted me to do something more practical, like nursing. And my dad was just kind of like, if the kid loves it, let him do it. And so I think that the fact that he gave me his approval is part of why I love acting so much. To get that approval from your father. I give my son that all the time. Like, I look at him and I tell him, man, I believe in you. I never got to hear that. I tell him I love you. I tell him, I make him do these affirmations where he goes, I tell him, I say, I'm powerful. And he'll go, I'm powerful. I'm like, say it again, Sallieu. I'm powerful. And he'll be like, I'm powerful. And I say it again, Sallieu. I'm powerful. And he'll say it. And it's the cutest thing. But I'm instilling these things in him that I've learned, not necessarily through my parents, but through books,
right,
through autobiographies, through documentaries, on how I can make sure that this human being that I've helped to create becomes a contributing member to society and a good person and an accomplished person.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a question about how you manage your time, because you do so many things and you seem to do them so well.
Oh, thank you.
And I think some people get overwhelmed. They've got a side job, they're doing auditions, they have family commitments, the social commitments. How do you do it all? Do you have a structure, a way you block your time, or?
Yeah, I would say I have this thing called a passion planner. So shout out to them. They're not giving me any kickback. But if y'all want to give me some kickback, that'd be nice. But I use the passion planner. And at the beginning of this planner, there's a whole thing in there, like your 1-year plan, 3-month plan, 6-year, 5-year plan. And I write and I journal a lot. And when I journal every day, for example, the first thing I write is, Sallieu, I'm proud of you for. I tell myself, like, man, I'm proud of you for owning multiple homes. I'm proud of you for working as a nurse to support your acting career and support your kids and your family. I'm proud of you for being a father. Then the next, I write that seven different times. So it's a gratuity thing. It's about gratitude. Yeah. Then the next thing I write is, Sallieu, I forgive you for. Sometimes we self-sabotage because we feel like we're undeserving. So we self-sabotage and we don't feel like, oh, well, do I really deserve to book this role? So you forgive yourself for things that you might have done intentionally or unintentionally in the past. And the very last thing, Darren and Richard, is, Sallieu, I commit to being a good person. I commit to being a great father. I commit to being a good son to both parents, my mom and my dad. I commit to my craft. So then it's like a calibration every morning and night on what it is my intentions are. I set those intentions and it's really hard to deviate. When I go to a restaurant and there's cake in front of me, I might have a little bit, but I'm not going to gorge on it.
Set your intentions for it.
I've already set my intentions. So the likelihood of me straying off the path is very slim.
It's so interesting because I know Richard does that every morning as well. And he actually created, for WeAudition, he created a planner that's available to download on the WeAudition website. That amazing. Actors can do that. And it does cover gratitude, the actions you're going to do for the day. Tell us more about that, Rich.
It's very similar, actually, and it's evolved. And I don't actually use that exact one that's actually up on the website, but it starts off with some affirmations and then sets out some things that, you sort of talked about self-sabotage there. It was really designed to sort of stop that. And then it was setting some intentions for the day. I put in that one 3 main things that you intend to do, because I don't think you can do more than that, those big intention things. I think you can only probably do 1 in a day, actually, a big intention thing. So not a to-do list, but those affirmations and those gratitudes, I think, are very important. And it's something that I started to do in the early days of WeAudition, really. And it completely changed my attitude
Doesn't
and
it?
my aspiration and my outlook on life. And it, I haven't been happy for, a while, and things were difficult. And being an actor is a very difficult thing, because everything seems so difficult sometimes. But that really helped me. And I wanted to share that with the community. And I've tried to put versions of that online, and they've evolved. And I do something slightly different now every morning. I do 10 things that I'm grateful for, 10 things that I am, and they change, and 10 things that I deserve, which is about exactly what you said, self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a WeAudition member, check that out. You can download that on the members section.
And we also have actually specific guided meditations. So speaking to you, hearing about you meditate, we have 3 meditation practitioners that recorded a bunch of content that was specific to the actor's journey, the actor's struggle. So really hearing you talk about meditation, about gratitude, about those kind of plans, and seeing the amount you get done in the day, it's absolutely, positive that helps you achieve what you achieve.
Yeah, it really does. Writing things down, I think, is huge, because you'd be surprised. I mean, it wasn't long ago that I said, I want my appeal to be global and not just in the States. And then, of course, going to, very luckily, being invited by you and Richard to go to Cannes, and then meeting people there, meeting Olivia Chouang, who's now my publicist in the UK, getting the chance to bump into my agent, who's reps me in UK and Germany, and then getting another agent who reps me in Ireland and the UK. Those things are actually coming into fruition because they were written down. They were focused on. The intention was set, and there was follow through on my part.
Talk to us about film festivals, like where you've been to. We met at a film festival. You've been to a bunch,
right?
You've been to film festivals where you've had films playing, and you've been to film festivals where you don't have a film playing. Why would you go? What's good about going to a film festival?
What you learn. It was Cannes the year before we went that I saw Letitia Wright speak, and I raised my hand. I had a question, and I asked about a publicist, and she said, listen, I would get a publicist if you can afford it for any little thing you do. And I thought, oh, really? She said, from the beginning, I've always had a publicist. I promote myself because we have to kind of be our own cheerleaders in the beginning. And I thought, okay. So I noted that. And so when I got, Manodrome, I didn't just get one publicist. I got 3. I had a publicist in Atlanta, publicist in the UK, and then a wonderful team here, with 3 very lovely people.
So you invested.
I invested, and you got to pay it forward. All this equipment I bought, someone could look at that and say, why would you spend all this money? Well, because I'm paying it forward on publicists, on acting classes, on flights, because if I'm a London-based hire, I got to fly to London, and then from London, they'll fly me to Serbia, or they'll fly me to wherever else we're filming, Germany or wherever else in Europe. So just keep paying it forward. I tell people, keep paying it forward. It's going to pay off. There's things in the spiritual realm that you can't see. There's things in the quantum realm that you can't see. But as long as your intentions are pure, you're paying it forward, that stuff's going to come back to you.
It's going to pay off. You say it's going to pay off.
It's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. And it has been paying off. Who knew that I'd walk the red carpet for the first time in Berlin, Germany?
Right.
I didn't know. I mean, I thought maybe it was going to be at Sundance. The film was going to come out at Sundance, we thought. But it just so happened, Magazine Dreams was there at Sundance, and it's a CAA film, and our film Manodrome was also a CAA film, and I think there's a conflict of interest. So it ended up getting released in Germany.
Well, it's interesting as well, because when you put yourself in those positions and in those environments, I know people say, well, I'm not going to do that unless this happens. I'm not going to go to a film festival unless they pick my film. And I always see it from the other angle, as maybe your film will get picked if you start putting time into those arenas. You've got to start showing up to things to be taken seriously enough.
And that's why I admire you so much, Darren. And I tell you this, like, you never cease to amaze me. I'm serious. And I always ask God, like, please put me around like-minded people. I don't want to be the smartest one in the room. I don't want to be the hardest working person in the room. You say, I work hard. Dude, you work your butt off. You and Richard. We Audition. It's such a huge platform. And you guys are literally global. Literally global. I see you flying all over the world and I think, I don't know how Darren does it.
I mean, the answer, thank you. I appreciate what you're saying there. And the answer is we do it because I think that's what it takes.
Right.
We are a global platform because we literally went to countries to promote it and find people. And yes, the internet helps that obviously, but that goes back to what I was saying just a minute ago. If he and I didn't put that time in, you probably wouldn't know about it. And this podcast is another example of that. It's just another tentacle out there where we're hoping to bring people like you on to provide value for people.
Yes.
Because
it's
goes back to the
important
thing
for people to know that it takes work, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm standing here now at 12:15, midnight, 12:15, doing this. But our community, the community of people is testament to the success of not only WeAudition, but those people who come on board do well. And it's brilliant, you know.
And we rise together. And that's the thing is anyone that I think there's a trend to sometimes romanticize the overnight success. And people, I had a discussion with a younger actor a couple of days ago that said, you know, I want my career to be like this actor. And he named a couple of actors and he said, you know, they just popped off and they were seen in this show and they were popped off and now there's this huge star. And I said, no, that guy has 1,000 hours of television under his belt. And I just pulled him up on IMDb and I showed him. I said, this guy did not start that movie. But I think we think that they do because that's the thing we see. And it's common for, you know, a newer actor to start making those decisions, being like, oh, I've heard this before. I don't want to do co-stars. I don't want to do guest stars. Everybody that we've had on this podcast so far has done a bunch of them before they got to where they are.
Absolutely. Because you got to know what it's like to be on set. You got to know what it's like to be on set.
How would you get cast?
Well, and they also need to know how you're going to be on set. That's the thing.
How you're going to look on film.
Hiring needs to know you've put the work in so that you're not going to turn up green. Now, of course, there's always the exceptions. They find a new Batman from somewhere or there's always that exception where you can see. But I always say this to my friends that quote me those. I also know one lottery winner and I know many, many more that didn't win, you know, but you hear about the one that did.
Right.
You know,
I agree. I love what you guys said about just it being romanticized. And that's why on my stories, you guys see, you know, I'm working night shift. I get off work. I go maybe take a quick power nap and I'm here doing this. And I'm going to, you know, go and prep some more. And then I go back to work tonight. And then tomorrow I'm at Paramount for this audition. And then we go to the WeAudition event. And then what am I off? Maybe Saturday and maybe I'll work again on Sunday. And it's a grind. It's a grind. I think that people have to be careful not to, you know, fall into the trap of thinking that it is just an overnight success, that you just move to LA and you make it. Like, no.
Are you in danger of burning out though? With that schedule, like how do you stop that happening?
So that's a very good question. So I think what I do, okay. So for example, I'm working really hard right now, right? But June.
And when you say working really hard, explain what.
So, okay. Acting class every Tuesday, Wednesday. Right. Ivana Chubbuck. Class with her on Tuesday, auditing on Wednesday, working nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. In nursing.
On your nursing job?
Yep. To support, you know, everything that's going on.
Right. Because you're spending money on classes and spending money on flights and all that.
On flights. And then what happens is, you know, I'm working towards something. So, by June 1st, I'm flying to London to go work and I'll be there for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and I'll be off. And then from London, I fly to Seattle. I grab my kids for the summer and then we come down to LA. And then I'm only working 3 days a week as opposed to working the 5 or 6 days a week.
Right.
So there is a balance, although the balance is over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So for many of the months, I'm working hard. And for the past 4 years, for example, I don't work when I'm with my kids. I quit all my jobs. My only source of income is through real estate.
Yeah.
Because I have properties that I manage that have rental income or Airbnb. And that pays for the activities we do. That pays for trips to New York to take them to see The Lion King on Broadway. It pays for Disneyland. It pays for everything.
How important do you think it is for an actor to think about diversifying their income and investments in that way?
I think it's very important. I think for someone to just say, I'm just going to be an actor, even writing, I think writing is important. I think acting, obviously, if that's what you do, and diversifying, because multiple streams of income is not going to hurt you. It's a good thing.
Right.
It's a good thing. If I lose my job today, at least I'm getting income from rentals.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of actors, I know will say, I just want to focus on my craft, right? But I think if you do it in the right way, having different streams of income allows you to focus on your craft, right? Because it takes away the stresses. If you are putting everything into that audition, you feel virtuous because no, I'm focusing 100% on that. But the back of your mind is worrying about rent, or the back of your mind is worrying about this other thing. You're believing that you're putting everything into your craft, but you're actually not. You're doing it an injustice.
Because they're not realizing that this is a marathon and not a sprint. Right. You have to think long term. November 17th, 2014 was when I moved to LA. This November is going to make that 10 years. I've seen so many people come and go in that time because they failed to manage their money well. They failed to see the big vision of this thing takes time. They thought, if I don't make it in a year or two, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm going back to Chicago. I'm going back to whatever. No, you have to devote your life to it. And if that's what you're doing, you're devoting your life to it, then you're building things around your life to support this thing.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah, 100%. You do so much, and you talk about all of the good things and other things. I think maybe it's a time to think about legacy. And we always ask everyone, what do you want your legacy to be? So to wrap it up, do you have a legacy that you have in mind, or is that evolving?
I think it's ever evolving, but I know for sure I hope to be known as a giver. I just had my birthday. I had a themed birthday party, and it was really nice to hear people talk about how they felt as if I'm the type of person who feeds into people, who fills people up. If I get a role or an audition, or I see an entire script and I think, oh, this person would be right for this, I'll email a friend and say, hey, check this out. I think you'd be right for this. Let your reps pitch you on this. It doesn't take anything away from me. And that's the type of person I want to be known for. Also, I want to be known as an amazing dad. That to me is one of the most important legacies that I want to leave behind. And obviously like a great artist, great artist. Philanthropic work as far as helping fathers to be present, because I think there's a lot of absent fathers and the foundation is gone. When it's just one woman raising a child or two or three, that's very difficult. I think fathers need to be more present. I think that's very, very important. And that's something that I want to work to build up. Yeah.
Thank you so much for inspiring us and giving great advice to the community.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate you being here, Sallieu.
My pleasure, Darren. Thank you guys for
having
having me. Richard,
really
thank you guys so much.
Thanks for that inspirational talk. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, guys.
Thanks for listening to the WeAudition Show. Your hosts were Darren Darnborough and me, Richard Cambridge, from WeAudition, the leading professional actors community where you can connect, learn, elevate your career, and always get a self-tape reader on demand. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're a WeAudition member, or even if you're not, we would love it if you could please subscribe to this podcast, as it really helps us. And if you have friends who might get value from this episode, please share the link with them. You can find us at weaudition.com, or for your iPhone or iPad by searching WeAudition on the App Store. See you next time.